Paul. Thanks for joining us on this episode.
No, it's my pleasure, Ramesh.
So Paul here is a friend of mine that we met in Taiwan over some meetups.
Yep.
And we quickly distinguished that he's a watch guy because I think the first time we met, you were wearing a very small white dial IWC.
Yes, in the 1940s IWC.
Yeah, and then we quickly identified that Paul was a bit of a special collector. He was more into vintage watches and so on. So today's episode, we're going to talk about a few different watches that Paul has. Three mainly, they're all three here. But before we get into this, let's talk about Paul himself. So Paul, tell us where you're from.
Yeah, I'm Paul from Indonesia. I came to Taiwan for my study here, and I did my master's, and then now I'm working.
Nice. And what got you first into watches?
So the first watch that I remember that I got was when I was 10.
Okay.
It was a Casio. Look, I forget what kind of Casio is it, but it's with an army style. It's an army style color.
Okay.
And there's an influence of my pastor who loves watches, and then my dad has a few watches that I think looks cool. And because of that, I started looking into the catalog that I had. You know, one time I went to Singapore. I went to different boutiques to ask for the catalogs.
Oh, okay.
And
they would give it to you like a printout.
Yeah, I was 12 or 13 at that time, and I would ask for the catalog, and then they say hey, my mom only allows me to buy something under 5,000 SGD. But I would love to see back then.
Yeah.
So throughout my journey, I got a few fake watches. I remember I got a Panerai. Radiometer Panerai 8 days. It's called 8 days. And then I had a Submariner, and I had a Rolex GMT. It fascinated me so much to think hey, how can this watch be a water resistant for 300 meters? And for the GMT part, I was looking at the third hand. I was what is this for? Which I didn't know until I was 17 or 18.
Yeah.
But it was just cool to have that. And I think when I was 13, I got fake Patek Philippe Nautilus. I think the reference is 5712, which has the moon phase complication on the Nautilus. Since then, I started to look more and more into watches. I deep dived into watches.
Now, coming right into the vintage side of things, when did you first get your first vintage watch?
So, there were two watches. I already sold those, but one of them was Tech Heuer, the racing one. I forget the name. And the other one was Omega de Fil. The reason why I got those two was because it was vintage and it was cheap back then. It was affordable, not cheap.
With your vintage watches, the first time you got them, were they always working, or did you run into problems instantly? How was the ownership experience?
So thankfully, when I got the first two watches that I got, I didn't encounter any problems.
Oh.
Yeah, of course, the bezel of the Tech Heuer one, I think it's Formula One. It's it was loose, but overall it was working well. And I mean, it didn't work, but I just changed the battery.
Yeah.
And the IC. And then it just worked.
Yeah.
And for Omega de Fil, it worked. It worked really well.
Okay. And maybe I jumped into the service part, but where did you get these watches, the first few watches?
So I bought the first few on eBay.
Okay.
And sent it to my friend who studied abroad, in the US, and he brought it back to me. And
back in those days, were there still those eBay authentication programs?
There were no authentication program, but thankfully I was, because I dig deeper into watches, right? So I actually look into the movement first, and I asked the seller to send me the pictures of the movement, and I cross-check it with the references that I could get from Google.
How big is your collection, and what does it mostly consist of?
I have about 30 watches now, and it consists of different things, but I would say the brand that I have the most watches would be Seiko.
Okay.
I think I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I think 5 or 6 different Seikos.
Oh wow. Okay.
And then 3 Omegas. But other than that, as far as I remember, I only have one of each brand.
Okay.
Like, so I was the type of guy who wanted to collect all brands, all the brands, one of each. I still kind of am now, but I think now I've formed my own identity and like the types of stuff that I want. Because before I was focused on the movement, and I don't really care about the dial. I didn't really care about the case condition. As long as the movement looks great, it was fine. I still do care about the movement now, but I also care about if I can wear it. You know, it's I don't think it's great to buy a watch and not to wear it, and because when you don't wear it, you will not
experience it,
and you will not even develop your own story.
True. We're going to start looking at one of these vintage watches. So, Paul, tell us which one you want to talk about first.
Let's talk about this one first. This is a Glasshutte original that was made in 1980s, I guess. Back then, this watch wasn't called Glasshutte.
Oh.
Actually, it was called GUB.
Okay.
It stands for something, I forget about it. It's just a beautiful watch that was made in the GDR, which is German Democratic Republic. I guess that's the eastern part of Germany. So this town of Glasshutte is famous for, has a heritage, watch heritage. So they produce these watches. Now there are a few brands that from that area that are quite famous. If you know most Glasshutte, Glasshutte original, which GUB. It comes from GUB, by the way. This was the GUB era one, and also the most high-end one that you guys might know is Lange and Son. It's from Glasshutte.
Can you maybe tell us a little bit about its dimensions, because it looks rather small compared to a modern watch?
So this is a 35.5 millimeter watch without the crown, but it's about 37, 38 with the crown. I think even though it looks small, when you wear it, it just fits into my hand, at least. And if you see it, it has a good charm. A blue dial with a few wears and tears, because it's a 40 years old watch.
Yeah.
Pretty well preserved. But one thing I like is the lack of date.
Yeah.
The lack of date actually makes the dimension looks nice, symmetrical.
Have you done any servicing on it since you bought it?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I surfaced it once.
Can you maybe tell us that experience? Like, where did you do it? How much that costed? And how long did it take?
So I serviced it in Indonesia in one of my trusted watchmaker, and it only took him one day. He's a really fast worker. It costed me about 15-20 USD.
Oh wow! 1 day, 15. Okay, that's a surprise. Normally, vintage watches of this era, I have no clue what to think of, right? So
no, because this is not a complicated movement. It's just a simple movement, and so that guy wouldn't charge me much because we know
You're
each other
friends.
too. Like he would give me a better price.
Nice, cool. Then let's move to the other one. You've also got some more exciting ones. What's this watch?
This is called Bovet. If you know the famous expensive Bovet, this is it, but from 1940s.
Yeah, actually, when we were discussing this video and Paul mentioned Bovet, I had to Google it, and it was super high-end, inside a mansion that they built all these watches spec, and I was just completely impressed. But supposedly this was pre all of that.
Yeah. So back then, Bovet made some watches, and I think this was a military watch. This is from 1940s. There are a lot of wears here, but it's still beautiful. When I got it, actually, it wasn't working, but I serviced it for a while. I spent quite a lot of money for it.
Okay.
That it works.
Also, this was in Indonesia. Same guy?
A different guy.
Different guy. Okay.
I know a few watchmakers.
Okay.
And now that it's working, it's beating. It's such a nice watch, and it just shows that a watch can, like, when I wore this watch, it reminds me that a watch can last over a few lifetimes.
Yeah.
When I see this, I'm guessing like someone in World War II would wear it, or at least someone from that era, and they give it to their children or grandchildren. Then they would give it to another person.
Yeah.
I might be the 6th or 7th hand on this watch.
Tell us a little bit more. Has there been any work done on this watch? Yeah.
As far as I know, as you can see from the case, it looks so old, right? I don't think there was any work on the watch.
No.
I serviced it for sure because it was not working. So it's working now again, and it's just such a beautiful watch.
Nice.
Yeah.
And I think you were mentioning this before the video started, right? This watch used to have a second hand,
Yeah.
and then the watchmaker unfortunately misplaced it though.
Yeah, and he couldn't find it, and we tried to find a similar looking one. It's a red colored one, but it doesn't fit the thing on the middle. So maybe I should work on it and look for one. I mean, there are a lot of old watches that are not working anymore. We can just take one part and put it there.
Hey, and Paul, this watch looks even smaller than the previous one you showed. So how big is this?
I think it's about 32 millimeters or 33
Okay. That's
without the crown.
That's insane. And when do you wear this? Is there a particular occasion, or do you just wear it whenever you like?
I just wear it whenever I like. I have another similar one, the one that you saw when we just met.
Yeah.
It's
The IWC.
Yeah, it's similar in a way.
Yeah, true. Tell us about the next one. So what's this one?
So the last one is a brand that died in the 1970s quartz crisis. It's called Cortebert. Like, Cortebert was a high-end watch, one that people would compare it to a Patek Philippe back then. Like, you know what's even interesting? Like, they made a watch movement. So they supplied some of their movement to Rolex and Panerai.
Oh, that's quite an interesting history.
Yeah, and I think when they sold their watches to, I think Omega bought the brand and all the patents. I forget. There's one big brand that bought it. I think it's Omega, but
Okay.
I need to check it out. So this is an interesting watch, because back then I didn't have any sub-dial watch that I want to have a sub-dial watch, and I look at this. I was like, whoa, the dial looks amazing. It's a sunburst dial. It looks nice.
It's almost got like a champagne color, right?
Yeah, and then
with gold hands, and I think there's even a little bit of patina inside those hands.
yeah,
It's like one of those new modern like minimalist watches, right? The style, but this probably predates all of that concepts, right?
Yep. I think this is from the 1960s, because as you can see on the back, it's like 61st Prix Observatories. Like, Observatory was the place where they tested the watch, actually. So I guess this was tested back then. And Cortebert was famous for the Maltese cross. So that's their logo.
Okay.
And I think this was an anniversary watch for someone. It's from 1946 to 1966. It must be someone's anniversary. Pretty sure it was someone's, but I'm glad that I got this because it's such a beautiful watch. Like, it's not a brand that you can get, and it's so thin.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that even if somebody wanted to get their hands on one of these today, because the company has stopped existing from the 60s, 70s. I can't do the math really quickly in my head, but that's quite a lot. That's about 60 years since it's been discontinued. I think the supply of these watches in the wild is probably absolutely nothing, right?
No, there are still some, but maybe it's not easy to get the exact same one. So the most famous model from Cortebert is called like Turkish Railway Edition, where they created it for the commemoration of Turkish Railway.
No, nice, and I think we're slowly starting to attract all the kids.
That's fine. Maybe they'll join us, and they'll be like a watch lover, right?
Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully.
Beautiful watches. And thanks for bringing these three vintage watches out. But now let's move on to what's on your wrist.
Right, this is the newest edition that I have. It's a Tudor Black Bay 58, blue edition.
And how new is new?
So I bought it in 2022,
Okay.
2 years ago. Well, no, not even 2 years ago, 1.5 years ago, but I just got it last year because I asked my brother who lives in Hong Kong to buy it for me.
Yeah.
So he kept it till like we met. This is with a hybrid of leather and rubber band, which is really nice, and it has such a nice dimension. I think it's 39.
I think so too. Yeah.
38, 39 millimeters and like 12 millimeters or 11.8 millimeters thick. Like it's a watch that was based on 1958's Tudor or Rolex back then, because would use the same case as Rolex, but just an ETA movement, generic movement, while Rolex used their own in-house movement. It's such a beautiful watch, like as you can see. It's just such a nice dive watch. Like I've been wanting to have a dive watch for a long time. Diver's watch.
Yeah.
Well, a high-end one. This is my
High-end.
first new high-end Diver's watch.
Yeah. No, this is beautiful, and to some degree, I can although this is modern and these are vintage, I can kind of see some similarities. You're a guy that mostly doesn't go for a lot of complications. Just a simple three-hand, and also mostly like clean designs, right? No floral, no crazy colors.
Yeah.
Nice.
Sometimes simplicity is the best thing you can get. Like you feel satisfied in simplicity.
Yeah, and also it's versatile. You'd say. You
Yeah.
can wear it against any situation.
I think I can wear this everywhere, like to a business meeting, to a party, to work, for my daily life, for a walk. Like this is just such a versatile watch, and I'm glad that I can be able to afford this. It's a watch that I wouldn't sell in my life, I think.
Nice. Thanks for taking the time out to talk about your watches today.
My pleasure.
And especially telling us about vintage watches, because it's normally a place that I'm quite nervous to venture.
You're welcome.
Hopefully we can convince you to do more videos with us.
Sure.
More of your watches, because you said you had 30, right? This is 3 out of 30. So hopefully.
I have about 11 more in here, a few others in Indonesia. But anyway, after talking about me, let's talk about your watch right now. What is it about? What are you wearing? And it looks nice.
Okay, so this has got nowhere near the history or story or anything like that. This is
A beautiful watch is a beautiful watch.
This is a watch made by a Chinese maker that you could find on AliExpress. That's where I got this from. But it's the only watch that looks vintage in my entire collection. So I thought we're going to interview a guy that's into vintage watches, at least bring one that looks vintage. But this is not. This is a manual wind Merkur watch.
Well, it looks cool. No, I think sometimes people only want to buy expensive watches, but you can start from a really affordable watches. Like I would highly recommend Orient.
Yeah, I really like Orient.
And Seiko for sure, Casio.
Yeah. Citizen's also got a
Citizen.
few good pieces.
And then some Chinese watches like Seagull. That's an amazing deal. I mean, like they have amazing value on it.
Yeah.
Like I have one Seagull too, which I really love a lot.
Okay.
And then, yeah, if you want to buy Swiss, you can also get some affordable ones like Tissot. Tissot would be one.
Hamilton's another one.
Hamilton is another one, and then you can buy some American watches too. I forgot what's the name.
Timex?
Timex, yeah, that's
Yeah.
another one that's pretty big. I suddenly forgot. It's been a while.
Thank you.
Oh,
And,
Waltham.
Waltham?
Yeah,
Ah,
that's the name.
I will Google it tonight. I don't
Okay.
know enough.
Okay.
Thank you for your time, Paul.
Oh, my
such a
pleasure, Mish.
And yeah, hope to see you more with more watches.
Sure, like keep buying watches.